morning, gifted crafters. It's crafting time.
Me and my friends are having a great time. It's not face to face, it's all online. We're all in our homes, miles away. Love them like my family, what can I say? My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you're never alone. Don't call or text me, it's about to begin. I've been patient, time for me to chime in. Comfy clothes on, feeling just fine. I'm busy right now, it's crafting show time. My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you're never alone. The host came on, they are truly a gem. Here for the show and to chat with my friends. Chat with each other about this and that. We share ideas, wisdom and other fun facts. My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you'll never.
From the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Let's have a good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Well, good morning, Gifted Crafters, and welcome back to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Good morning out there. So I'm so happy that you guys could join me today on my crafting journey from all over the world. I know you guys are tuning in just from all over the place, and I truly appreciate all of your support today. Now, today is going to be a little bit different. I did forget all about an appointment that I had this morning, so I knew I would not be able to be with you guys live. So we decided to go ahead and try out the premiere, and so we went ahead and pre-recorded this for you so that you guys can still kind of get together in the morning and just do all kinds of things together. Now, I am leaving Mr. H in charge here while I'm gone. So be nice to him. Be really nice to him. But, you know, we got to keep him in check. And you guys are going to be, you know, my eyes and ears for me. So I do have that appointment. So I'm not going to be able to stream at our normal time. So I'm leaving him in charge. I'm going ahead and doing all of this pre-recorded for you guys so that you guys can continue on the journey with me doing our little project here. So I really didn't want to cancel the show, and I wanted to keep this project going because we want to stay on track. So I am going to let Mr. H be in the chat there with you during this premiere. So he will be there and you guys will be my eyes and ears for me. Just let me know, you know, what he's doing out there. Hopefully he'll behave himself. Who knows? Who knows, right? Okay, so first things first, guys. I know it's morning for you guys, and I want you guys to go ahead and raise your little glasses and go ahead with your coffee, tea, whatever it is that you drink in the morning, and let's do our little toast. And for those of you who don't have anything, I'll go ahead and pour you a cup in the morning for you. So let's raise that glass and let me do a little toast that you guys have a fantastic day. So let's grab a little swivel because I do have some more water with me tonight. So let's get that going. Oh gosh, feels good every single time, right? So I wanted to be the first to toast with you to start off your day. So hopefully you've got that all there and settled down and you're in your nice little cozy spot. So now I know you guys want your snacks, and I wasn't going to leave you with no snacks in the morning. I mean, what kind of host does that, right? So we definitely have to have the snacks, and we have that for you. So we're going to roll out the cart. We're going to do our little exercise. You know, let's go ahead and grab our snacks. You guys can go ahead and put everything off to the side. You can have anything you want in our virtual cart and go ahead and pull out what it is that you like to have with your morning drink today. So we've got a little drone for you guys today. And so, you know, since I'm not here, we're going to be kind of delivering some of this for you. So I hope that really helps out. So here's to you guys. Don't worry, the drone will get to you no matter where you are in the world, and we will provide you with your drink along with your snack. So hope you guys enjoy that, and don't worry, we have all the stuff that we normally have, you know, the coffee, the tea, the muffins, the bagels. We even have the carrots and the kale for all the healthy folks out there. And there's probably a few more vegetables on the cart as well. So we're not just limited to those. So hope you guys enjoy those little snacks. And then, guys, we have kind of a full agenda for today because we are working on our spooky and sweet little pattern here. And let me go ahead and show you that for those of you who are tuning in for the first time here. We are working on the mystery spooky and sweet, and this is just it kind of has two different ways that you can put it together. You can put it together as a little wall hanging like this, or you can do it as a little door banner there. So there's two different ways that you can put this together. I have a link in the video description below if you're interested in doing this sew along with me. We just started it this week, a little bit late this week, so you still have time to catch up because I have gone ahead and we are on week 1, and I did all of the cuts for week 1, and we have just started putting this together yesterday. So again, here's my little tray of all the goodies that I put together, and it is all ready to go for us to stitch. So before we get to all of that, I did kind of pull up the crafting news. So let's go ahead and go to crafting news so I can give you some of the stories for the day. Okay, so first we're gonna head over to Alabama, and we've got a woman that is known as the Quilt Lady, and she is wrapping children in comfort with her handmade gifts. Her name is Linda Fetney, and she is since 2022, she's been teaming up with the Auburn Police Department to give quilts and little stuffed friends called Worry Buddies to kids in crisis. Now the quilts go to children after car accidents, tough calls, anything that where they're needed to kind of feel safe and warm, and it's something that they can hold on to. And these worry buddies are just small little zipper mouth creatures where the kids can kind of whisper all their troubles into and then zip them shut and let the buddy eat up the worries, right? So isn't that a sweet idea? I think Linda and her quilting friends have already donated about 100 quilts with fabric and support coming in from around the world, and that's pretty amazing. She says it's all about offering the next big thing next to a hug, and to remember that kindness and stitches go hands in hand. I thought that was a pretty cool story. And then we're gonna head over to New Orleans, where we have an artist by the name of Gina Phillips, and she has found a beautiful way to turn heartbreak into hopes. Now, Gina lived in the lower 9th Ward when Hurricane Katrina struck about 20 years ago. And she, like many other people, have lost everything, even her sewing machine. Yeah, and you know, I think that's Faker McFake's area too. I know you're in that area. So if you're tuning in this morning, you can probably really relate to that story. Now, instead of giving up, what she basically did was rebuild her life with creativity. With the help from a post-Katrina arts grant, she got a new quilting machine and she began experimenting. And Gina says that she's not a traditional quilter, but she uses thread and fabric to make some incredible works of art that almost leap off of the wall. And this is living somewhere between painting and quilting. So her latest piece, called Borrow Pit, reflects the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, showing the many layers of life and history stitched into her community. And Gina says that New Orleans will always be her forever home, and her art is a way of stitching together her past and present with hope. And I thought that was pretty amazing to kind of bring the memories, you know, something that was kind of traumatic, and just kind of bring together what the future now holds for her. So it's kind of giving that blend between past and present in a really nice and positive way. So I really love those stories, and I hope you guys do love them as well. And so now we can kind of get to our project, because we just have so many things to cover. And I really wanted to kind of continue to go through this because there are a lot of steps on here, and I want to make sure that we get this project done, because we've got so many other projects. You know, we are just, you know, we're already past the halfway mark of August, and right before we know it, Christmas is going to be upon us, and we're going to have tons of things to do. So we want to get through the projects as quickly as we can. So yesterday we did do the first two steps of the project, and that's these two pieces here that we did. So these are the two that we've put together. They were using the stitch and flip method, and the instructions did tell you to do it the regular way, which is drawing a diagonal line and then kind of sewing it and then cutting a piece off. But I am using the folded clipper corner ruler that's by Creative Grids, and instead of drawing the line and doing all of that, I'm using the ruler, which then allows me to kind of line things up, make the cut, and then do the sewing. So a little bit of a different instruction in terms of how it gets done, and the accuracy of these rulers are really on point, and I think that's pretty amazing. So it really does help on that. So we're going to continue to use this as much as we can on all of the steps, and then we're just going to follow the directions and just kind of continue on our way on this. So I'm going to pull these over to the side because I do want to show you something in terms of getting the accuracy on your machine. And let me just slide my sewing machine over. going to kind of put that in front of me. And I know we've talked about all kinds of tips on your machine and things that you can do to line up and get that perfect seam. So I know that we've talked about this diagonal seam tape right here, right? We have lined that up. We used a ruler to line this up, and it's lined up with my needle that is set in the center position. So it's running right along this red mark here. And then you have a 1/4 inch on either side to make sure you have that exact 1/4 inch when you're running through your project. But I also have, because I did talk about how one of the things that I struggle with is towards the end of the project, right when I'm on my tail end and I don't have any fabric that I can hold on to in the front, I tend to kind of pull a little bit more either to the left or the right, and then my seam goes off a little bit. So I decided to go ahead and put my magnetic seam right here. This magnetic seam guide, I left it right on the back area instead of the front, because I'm using this seam tape for the front. So I want this to help me on the back end and just make sure that when I pass my fabric through, and I'll kind of give you an example here, as I pass this fabric through, and I know I'm on my 1/4 inch seam here, my back area here stays not nice and straight, and I'm not kind of moving towards, when I get towards that end and I don't have fabric to hold on to, I want to make sure I don't twist over either this way or that way, and I stay nice and straight. And my fabric will be bumping up against that magnetic seam guide to make sure that I do that. So that is just another tip on how you can set up your machine. Don't think that you need to put these magnetic seam guides right to the front. I mean, ideally you'd like to have it here if that's where your struggle is, but if you've got this diagonal seam tape and you are pretty certain as to how you've lined this up, then you can kind of just leave that here so you have the ability to see and make sure that you're on it. And then just leave it in the back here to help you on the back end as you continue to feed your fabric and the feed dogs continue to take the fabric in. It just helps you to align and make sure that you stay nice and straight. So I just wanted to mention that so that you have that as an additional tip. So let's go ahead and look now at the instructions to see what the next step is on our project. And so we have done the first 2 items. So the next 2 items will be fabrics EE and W. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the EE. This is a different color fabric. And then I need the W, which I have laying right here on top. So I'm going to grab that one as well. And see, I tried to make it where I could see the majority of the letters, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to kind of be able to, to just be able to see where everything is, and it makes it easier for me to pull it out. So I don't have the little alphabet-y, so I'm just using a little Post-it note paper that I cut up, and I just kind of pinned it around the fabrics. But there's tons of different things you can do. You can take some painter's tape and just write on the painter's tape and just, you know, stick it onto your stack. I decided to use pins because there are certain ones that you have multiples of. And so I wanted to kind of make sure that they didn't kind of get disconnected. So I preferred to do it with the pin. But if you have some clips, you can do that as well with a little piece of painter's tape, or masking tape is another one that you can use. You know, anything that will help to guide you. Of course, if you have the little alphabet-ys, and even the little alphabet-ys with the little clip would work really great to keep all that together. Okay, so let's take our 2 new pieces here, and we move this over to the side so we have some space and you guys can see. And we are going to take the W, I'm going to remove the pin here, And we're going to take double E. And what we need to do is just kind of put the one on top of the other. I have a little thread there. Just one on top of the other, and it's asking you to go ahead and just sew these two together. So it's a simple straight stitch, right sides together, one on top of the other. Just make sure it's lined up nice and straight there. And then just bring it over to your machine. And we're gonna do a 1/4 inch seam going all the way down. Now, one thing to note in the instructions, when you download these, by the way, these are, the pattern itself is a free pattern that you can get. It's, if you would like to buy the kit, again, the link is in the description. The pattern itself is free. So if you have some fabrics that you have in your craft room, you know, this is a perfect project to kind of get rid of some of those. It uses a lot of solids. So if you have a lot of solids in your craft rooms, in your stash, you can definitely do this project. So one thing I wanted to note that they do provide is, you'll notice in some of these little instructions, you sometimes see these little arrows on here. That's just basically telling you which direction the seam allowance should go. So once you have sewn this, when you go to press it, in this particular case, between the W and the EE, you want to make sure your seam allowance is pressed up. And that's just helping you, kind of guiding you in terms of being able to then take the way you've pressed your seam allowance and being able to lock them together when you start assembling the unit together with other pieces. So if you follow the guide here, where it's telling you how to iron your seam allowance, you should be able to lock things together, and they should come together pretty nicely on that. So, alrighty, so I'm going to take my two pieces here, and I'm going to put this up on the top here. And let me just lock in my little legs here. I want to make sure that I am right on top of the fabric. And I'm just checking both sides. And once I know I am nice and straight, I'm just going to come over to my machine. And I'm just going to start lining it up. And so I'll go right to my guide here on my seam allowance, put my presser foot down, and I'm going to go ahead and bring down my needle. And so I just check here that I am nice and straight. And let me just grab my little sewing foot here. It's always getting away from me. Here we are. I keep kicking it out of my way, just because it becomes in my way, and then it gets out of my way again. So, all right. So I got that in here, and I've got all my settings here. I am doing this at about a 2.5 inch length here. You could do about a 3 if you want. That's pretty much up to you. But I'm going to go ahead with 2.5, and I'm just going to go ahead and sew this nice and straight. And you can really just take your time doing this and just leaving your hand available as support. Now I have my hand on the top of the fabric here providing some support, but I also have my hand, and that's probably a little bit off camera where you can't see it, but I do have my hand on the other side of the fabric, just slowly, you know, holding on to it and making sure that it's staying nice and straight. And then when I need to adjust, I'll just kind of pause a little bit here, and then I will continue to move forward. You always want to kind of put a little bit of pressure on your fabric because you want to make sure that you're nice and straight. And this is where it can kind of get a little tricky. And so I needed to kind of line this up just a little bit here. I want to make sure this is nice and straight. I did move it a little bit earlier. And so here we're on the very edge of the fabric. And so I can't really hold on to this fabric because it's going to be fed and the feed dogs are going to just take it away. So I want to make sure that my hand stays here supporting it. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky because sometimes you get a little sidetracked. You're thinking, oh, you're done. And so you let go a little bit too early and sometimes it'll kind of curve or turn in. So you want to make sure that you kind of just see the seam all the way through. So yeah, I can't hold on to it here, but I can certainly hold it with my other hand and just make sure that I guide it all the way through. And then once I've done that, I can raise my needle and lift up my presser foot and cut my thread. And you can see we've got a nice consistent 1/4 inch seam. Can you guys see that? There you go. A nice consistent 1/4 inch seam all the way to the end. And you can see here, you know, it didn't curve on me or anything like that, right? It's nice and straight. So nice 1/4 inch seam all the way down. And I think it looks great. So now the next step to this, we're going to pull this over to the side. And I'm going to go over to my ironing board. And I've got my little board all set up. And it's funny because we had some light bulb moments yesterday when we were talking about this little iron. And it has the little silicone mat with it, right? So this is one side that is meant for storage, and then the other side is actually meant as a resting side. And a lot of people didn't even know that. I didn't know that until it kind of just hit me, and we had some light bulb moments yesterday. So we all know that you can kind of put this in here and it will just hang your iron and it'll hold on the iron and keep it protected and protects the sole plate. But if you flip it over, it does have the resting side, and then you can kind of just lay the iron here or here, and then just kind of let it rest there. So that's like an additional way you could use this. So I thought that was pretty neat. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this here. I'm going to clip my threads here. So I do have my snips here. Here we go. I want to clip that little thread. And then I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to set the seam. So it's really important that you set the seam first before you fold things over and just kind of press it on top. So big difference between pressing and ironing, right? You want to go ahead and set your seam first. So let's go ahead and lay that flat. And then I think my iron is nice and hot already. So it's ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just press that right on the seam. And you can then take your clapper and just kind of press that on top. And then you're going to go ahead and flip this over. And you're going to finger press it, and you're going to start from the center. So go ahead and start with the center here, and then just move your fingers towards the edge. Okay, let me see. I think this gives a little bit of a glare. I'm going to kind of move it over to the side here. There we go. I think that's better. Okay, so just moving it with your fingers, move it along. And then what you can do, if you have one of these clappers, you can kind of rest it on top and fold it over like this so that your seam is open and exposed right on the top. And I just kind of drape it and move my fingers around it to make sure that it's nice and flat. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my iron, and I'm just going to iron right on top, right on that seam. It's really, what it's going to do is that heat is going to penetrate into that seam allowance, and it's going to really give your seam some heat in there, and it's going to help to make it nice and flat. So we've got that here. right? And you can see how flat the seam is already. Let me see if I can show you here on this camera. See how nice and flat that is already? And we haven't even really pressed it yet. All we did was open the seam. We set the seam first, and then we draped it and had the heat right on the seam line. So now I'm just going to take it and I'm going to put it right back on, lay it nice and flat, and then I'll just give it another little press. And you want to put a little bit of pressure, just moving that along. And then, of course, grab your clapper and just lay that right on top. And just hold it a few seconds, and you'll have a really nice flat seam on here, which is really helpful. Okay. And so there you go. And if you look at the instructions, you know, it's telling you to make sure that your seam allowance is up, which is the direction that we have here. And so it looks like it's nice and flat. So it's perfect the way we want it. You also want to check your corners, make sure that you don't have any fabric sticking out, making sure that it's nice and even here, which is great. And now we're ready to go. So this was the next step. So we're adding this to our pile here of all the different pieces that we've already put together. And so now we're going to move to the next step here on the instructions, and we are going to look for, let's see, fabric A is what we're going to need here. So we're going to dig for that one. And I believe that's this big one right here. So I'm going to pull this one away. Okay, so it looks like we're going to add this fabric A to, let's see now, it's going to be going on top of the one that we just did. So let's set this over to the side. I'm going to unpin this here and take this off. Now I did press this, but I'm not loving the way it's looking right now. It looks a little wrinkly, so I'm going to go ahead and just give it a quick little press here. I think it just needs that little bit extra of a press. That way it's nice and flat. There we go. I'm liking that much better. Okay. That makes me happy. Okay, so much better there. Now the instructions are telling us to go ahead and draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of fabric A, and then with the right side facing, layer the fabric A square on the right end of the partial hat band. So we're going to have this facing down this way. So we've got the black on top and the little green fabric towards the bottom, and we want it on the right hand side. So it's going to be on this side here. It's my right, probably your left, right? And so we're going to lay that on top. Now, traditional ways to draw the diagonal line right here, and then this eventually is going to be stitched, and this piece will be cut away, and then we're going to flip this over so it looks like that, right? That's the idea. So let's see. I'm going to grab my little ruler to see. Now it looks like we're not going to be able to use it because it's just too small, but we do have a bigger one, right? So let's see if I can bring that one out. So I do have, this is the folded clipper extra large, so it's much, much bigger, right? And I still have it in the package, so I am ready to go. And this is thanks to Celia, who sent this over to me. So thank you again, Celia. I am opening it up, and getting ready to use it for the first time. I didn't want to take it out of the plastic until I was ready to use it, because I like to, you know, I don't want to, you know, I want to keep it protected so it doesn't get any scratches on there. So I love this. Okay. So on this one, it's kind of hard because I know that the measurement is at 6.5 inches. So I'm going to line it up on the 6.5 inch mark. So I know that because that was what the instructions told me to cut it at. So you always have to kind of know what your base measurement is so that you know where to line it up. So I know right here is that base shape, but now of course I'm going to line it up here on the corner because that's what I want to cut. So let me take it off of this here because we just want to measure this square. And let me actually move this out of the way. Okay. Let me get this a little bit closer to me here. And let's see. I'm going to line this up again. Here we go. Make sure it's nice and straight. There we are. And then I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line it up first, and then I'll let you guys see in just a second what I am lining up, just so that I can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Okay. So let me move this over, and then I'll line it up again. Whoop. Okay. So here we are with the larger folded clipper corner. This is the extra large size, so you can do those bigger blocks, right? So now on this one, I'm going to, and let me just grab a little pencil. I'm at the 6.5 inch mark is where I know I need to be, because from here to here, it's 6.5 inches. So I'm lining it up on the 6.5 inch line. And because this is the square that I'm looking to line it up to this bigger piece, I'm lining up the square here, not this side over here. I'm actually lining up the square over here. So I want to make sure my line is straight on this end. I want to line up my gray square all around this edge here. And I want to make sure that this tip right here is nice and flushed. And there's a tiny little piece down here with a little line that you want to make sure gets lined up from this side here. So once you know that you have your 1, 2, 3, 4 places all lined up to go, then we can go ahead and make that cut. And then this gray area is going to be flipped over after you've done that 1/4 inch seam, and you'll maintain this base shape here of the entire thing. Now, once this is completed, this should measure 6.5 by 8.5 inches. Okay, so you're still going to have your 6.5 inch shape going this way. But now this area is going to include not just the gray portion, but also the black and green. So this from here to here is going to be 8.5 inches. So you want to make sure that that stays nice and intact. It's really important that you maintain the measurements all the way through on the project. That's going to help you be more successful towards the end when we start to assemble this together. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to again move it closer to me so I can remeasure this again, where I can see kind of what I'm doing here. It's kind of hard when it's away from you. Okay, and here I am measuring at 6.5. And line up my ruler on that bottom line. I'm lined up here, 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 and if I look a little bit over, I'm glancing up here, I am good. So I'm ready to just kind of cut this piece right here. Now, if you're following the other directions and you're actually drawing the diagonal line from corner to corner, what you want to do is draw that line first, Then you're gonna sew on that 1/4 inch seam, and then you're gonna cut it afterwards. Where this is, because you're using the ruler, it's kind of done a little bit different. You know, like they say, you've got to measure twice, cut once, right? So make sure that you follow the steps on the pattern if you don't have the ruler, but if you do have the ruler, you can certainly do it this way. Now, here comes another struggle. So I am left-handed. I can use my right hand, but I tend to not want to do it because sometimes it doesn't come out so accurate. So I do have to kind of turn it for myself to make sure that I can make the cut with this hand, right? So since I went ahead and moved it, let me just double check everything again, make sure nothing moved on me here. And I got some movement here, so let's just make sure this is in place. Here we go. And I'm gonna have to adjust just a little bit here. There we go. Just a little bit of a move and all of this can shift on you. So you want to just make sure it's lined up just right. Okay, I think that is good enough. All right, so then of course you hold it down with one hand, grab your rotary cutter, and then go ahead and make that cut. I'm just gonna move this just a tad so I don't burn myself here. And so here we go. Okay. Now remember, you're doing downward pressure with this hand. This hand is just holding it down. You're not doing any angles or anything like that. Just a nice straight cut, and then pull this side away. You can see here I have a tiny piece that didn't cut all the way through. It did cut the gray, but the black didn't cut. So I can definitely kind of go back, because I haven't moved anything. I can kind of go back and just nick that little area that didn't come out. Then you just kind of move it away there. And so because I've done that, now I can kind of lift up my ruler here, move this to the side here, and now I can take this and do my 1/4 inch seam. Now, you've got to be really careful here. You don't want to kind of move this around all that much. You just want to pick it up gently and try to keep everything together and move it over to your sewing machine, so it'll be nice and ready to go. So let's move this to the side. We're back at our machine again. We want to just grab this here, and I want to line this up. And I'm going to go ahead and try to line up right on my 1/4 inch seam line. There we go. And I want to go ahead and put my needle down, and I am ready to go. Now, sometimes you may need a little leader. So if you have a little scrap of fabric and you need to put that in front so that your fabric doesn't get caught into that little hole, you can do that. For those of you who are not using a straight stitch machine, the big difference will be on the needle plate. A straight stitch machine will just have the one little hole and it doesn't have any decorative stitches. It just does simply straight stitch, right? And for those of you who have other machines that do these decorative stitches, the plate is going to have a bigger hole on the bottom. So it allows the needle to move around into different positions so it can create that decorative stitch. Problem with that is when you're doing things like piecing like this and you're using that type of machine, your fabric sometimes can get inside that little hole. And so when it does that, it will kind of get stuck in there. And so that's where you may want to grab just some little scrap fabrics like these and just use them as what we call leaders and sometimes as enders. When you're doing piecing, this is a great tool to have. So yet another reason not to throw away those scraps. You can certainly use them for things like that, right? So now that we've got all that ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and stitch my seam here. Again, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And yeah, I'm having a hard time seeing. There we go. Just stay nice and steady. If you need to slow down, you can slow down. Just make sure that you are nice and steady there. Here we go. And again, if you need to slow down, readjust your hands, getting towards that end. So we want to provide that support and just make sure you follow it all the way through. And then lift up that needle and that presser foot and cut your threads. And then let's kind of take a look at how we did here. So here we are. 1/4 inch seam, looks pretty good. And we got it all the way through. So not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and move this to the side, and we're back at our little ironing board here. So I'm going to bring over my clapper along with my board, and I'm going to give this a nice press on the seam right on top there. So let's grab that little iron and let's get this nice and pressed with a little bit of pressure. Now, some people, when I was at the Quilt Guild, I did ask about how they did their pressing. And it was kind of funny because there were all kinds of different comments and tips on how they do this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you something that, I'll share something that they taught me there. So some people were saying, well, of course you want to set your seam, right? So we've done that. But then I've had some people say, well, what they'll do is they will open this up and then they will hit it with a little bit of starch to get the seams to stay nice and crisp. And I thought that was pretty interesting to do. And then some other ladies were saying, no, we do that when we set the seam. So a little bit of different ideas there. And I guess you kind of do whatever works for you. But I'm going to go ahead and just use my little bar here. And I'm going to flip this over. I'm just glancing to see, let's see. Yep, it's saying that seam should go up this way. So I'm good. And I'm just going to finger press starting in the middle, working my way out, and then just kind of flatten that out. And if you want to move it a little more to the center here, you can do that as well. There we go. Just makes it easier for my iron. So grabbing my iron now, go ahead and hit that. If you want to use a little bit of starch, you can. I do have a little bit of best press nearby, so you can do that if you'd like. But I'm going to go ahead and just go with this because I starched this pretty well. So I think I can get away with just doing it like this. Okay, let's take it off and let's take a look. So, what does that seam look like? Pretty flat in my opinion, right? Not too bad there. I think it's a nice flat seam. So I think it does a really good job just pressing it on this bar. It really opens up that seam and allows the heat to penetrate it and really set it. And then when you come around the second time, now that we've set that, we're going to kind of just lay it flat. And then we're going to hit it with the iron again. So go ahead and do that with a little bit of pressure. And I always like to kind of start in the middle and then work my ways to either end. You can either do from the center to the left or center to the right, whatever is easier for you. And then I kind of go off and iron the rest of it. But I do like to start with that seam first. And I'll kind of lay that back down, set it back down again, and then grab the clapper and just let it sit for a few seconds. And what's really happening here is that the heat is kind of being absorbed by the wood. The wood itself will absorb the heat and will allow that seam to become really crisp underneath. So it's really holding on to the heat and absorbing it so that the fabric will stay nice and flat. So I think that the clapper is really a great addition to any craft room out there. Okay, so we've got our nice seam set here and another piece all done for this project. And we're just kind of moving right along here. So this is pretty neat. Now we've got this big extra piece here on the side, and I never throw my pieces out. So I will be putting that off to the side and can probably use that for something else. So what I can do at this point is kind of check my measurements, and I want to clip my threads here. So let me just clip off these long threads here. I think I had another one. No, I think I'm good there. And then I want to take this and check the measurements, right? Because it did say that the finished size for this piece should be 6.5 by 8.5. So let's go ahead and just measure it on the mat itself here. So here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. So we're on that 8.5 inch mark. And then we need 6.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 going all the way across as well. So we are on spot on target here for our little piece right here. So this is great. And it's always good to, because a lot of people really kind of skip over that. They don't measure it. And then when they start assembling it together, they're not understanding why the pieces don't match up. Well, these are little checkpoints that you can give yourself to know that you're on track here. Because if your measurement is off here, then when you go to assemble it, you're going to run into difficulty, and it's not going to align properly. Then you'll have to kind of go back and undo the seams and try to figure out what went wrong. Either you sewed it wrong, you cut it wrong, or you pressed it wrong, right? It's always one of those three things. Those are the three things that can really mess up your seam. So those are the things you have to really check out for. So now that we've got this together, we're going to assemble one more unit, and let me just grab those pieces. So we're going to do the hat brim. That's the next piece that's coming up, and they're really tiny pieces. So let's see if I can find them here. We're going to need Z, and we're going to need fabric I. So let's try to find that one here. Let's see if we see the Z anywhere here. It could be hidden. Well, here's the I. I did find that one. So I may have to pull this out. There we go. And let's see, we need Z. So Z is this one right here. Okay, so we're going to make one of these, and this one's really simple. It's just going to be attaching, like just doing another straight stitch here. Let me just clip this together so I don't lose it. And I've got my one little piece here. And where did it go? It's I. And just to make sure, this is 1.5 by 13.5. I'm just checking. Yep, this is I. Okay. Alrighty. So these are the two pieces we need to put together. And for this one, the instructions say it's very simple. You're going to take I and Z. Hold on. I'm sorry. I took the wrong piece, didn't I? Okay, this was Z, and then I thought was this one, and this is not I. Let's see, I believe that I is a very small piece. Oh, it's right here. I must have mislabeled this one. So I'll have to go back and check that one, but this is I right here. There we go. Sorry about that. Wrong one. So I just grabbed that. And this is the piece that we need to put together. And so it's just a tiny, tiny one. And of course I put the wrong one back. Having a hard time today, aren't I? There we go. Okay, this is the one that's mislabeled, so we'll have to find that home. And we're gonna check this one here. I'll check the measurements. And what you can do, if you get these things kind of mixed up, you can kind of go back to your cutting instructions and just check the measurements on here. So I is 1.5 inch squared, and that's exactly what I have there. And then the second part is Z, and Z is, let's see if I can find it, 1.5 inch by 12.5 inch, and that's what I have here now. So we are good. Okay. So for this piece, the only thing we need to do is just kind of line this up on the edge here and just hit it with that 1/4 inch seam. So no flipping, no diagonal lines or anything like that. It's just a straight seam right on the edge and then just kind of flipping that over. And you're just going to want to make sure that you do that on the left-hand side. That's where you have to make that seam. So really quickly, we can do that. I am going to just hit it with the iron one more time before I bring that over, just to make sure it's nice and flat. So give that a quick little press because it was sitting on the design board. And I like to make sure everything is nice and flat. And then I'm just going to line these up here. And I'll bring that over to my machine. So set this to the side and bring this over. Here we go. Alrighty. And let's see, whoops, we've got this on the wrong side. So we want to make sure that this is on the left-hand side. So I'm going to put it on the left. And of course you can just flip it since it's not a directional fabric or anything. So you could always just flip it around. And then again, the pieces, when they become smaller, it's a little bit difficult. You want to pull your threads to the back so they stay out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my little seam here. There we go. Alrighty, and now I'm going to go ahead and just press that really quickly. Open that up. Hit the seam. And then I will just open it up on here. And that's going to complete yet another section for us. So this is the brim of the hat. And that's going to bring us towards the end of today's session because we were able to do quite a number of things here. So we were able to get that in, which is great. I'm going to give it one more press here and just hit this with the clapper. Okay, so while this is setting, why don't we go ahead and go over to our inspirational quote of the day. Okay, so today's quote of the day is, "A shared love for crafting creates bonds stronger than thread and warmer than batting." And I think that's just what we all share with us here today. You know, we just love to craft and do things together. And it's awesome that we can do it together. So although I'm not live today because I did have an appointment, I really didn't want to cancel the session and I really wanted us to be able to craft. But I'm sure that you guys were able to follow along and I will see you again tomorrow morning. So I look forward to seeing you all again. So we are just about at the end here. Now, I hope you guys have a fantastic day and support other YouTubers that are out there. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. You don't know what you're missing, because we have all kinds of fun on the channel. Please go ahead and support other YouTubers that are out there. Everyone works really hard and does amazing work to give you guys our content. You can join our membership. That's another way you can support us. But I just want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, because you guys are really special to me, and I really love doing this with you guys every single day. So lots and lots of fun. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope you liked my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space clutter-free. Hope your day is bright as can be. So long, my friends, till we craft once again. Bye now, stay crafting. See you tomorrow. So long, my friends, till we craft once again.